Can you tell us a little bit about the assassination in Russia, which Ukraine indirectly claimed responsibility for?
Indeed, yesterday, in fact, this assassination took place in the morning while we were on this program. But of course, the details had to come out, and they came out very soon. Now you are watching the footage. This is the front of an apartment building in Moscow. The residents of that apartment building did not know that they were neighbors with a corps general. But here is the Russian corps general coming out of the apartment building with his aide. There's a scooter parked right next to them. It was detonated by remote control and 2 people died on the spot, the Russian Army General Igor Krylov and his aide. Now what does this mean? There are very important aspects to this assassination. He is the commander of the Russian Army's nuclear, biological and chemical defense force. And he was the one who made the statements, usually in the Ukraine war, about the biological weapons laboratory in Ukraine, which is supposedly owned by the United States. He was on the sanctions list of America and Britain, because he was the one who gave the order to launch a chemical weapons attack on Ukraine. So he was already on Ukraine's list of legitimate targets. And now the way he was killed, again, if the footage comes on the screen later, is very critical. Because he is killed in front of his house, and as soon as he comes out of his house, this bomb planted in this scooter is detonated. What does this mean? Actually, Ukrainian agents, we think it was Ukrainian, although there is no official statement. Ukrainian agents were in Moscow at that moment. And they saw them coming out of the apartment with the naked eye and immediately detonated the bomb by remote control. So we can say that Moscow, the heart of Russia, is crawling with Ukrainian agents. Look how big a security weakness this is for Russia, which we have seen before and very recently. There have been similar assassinations of bloggers or military officials who supported the war in Ukraine. And so far, he is the highest-ranking military official to be killed in Russia in front of his home, not on the front line in the war in Ukraine. Here we understand that Putin now sees this or is being given a message to see this. Yes, maybe on the Eastern Front in Ukraine. Now, the initiative is in the hands of the Russian forces. They are expanding the occupation there. They are advancing on the ground, but the terrorist threat is still there. Or the threat of a drone attack persists. In other words, Russia may constantly face this security weakness in its own territory. So Ukraine wants to increase its hand. So who organized this attack? Officially, no official in Ukraine has said that we did it. On the contrary, Podolyak, the advisor to the Ukrainian president's office, said no, we had nothing to do with it. But the following strategy is being pursued. Indirectly, Ukrainian intelligence officials, in statements to almost every agency, Reuters, BBC, AFP, they say, yes, we organized it. So, in a sense, there is no doubt that it was an operation that also increased the reputation of the Ukrainian intelligence, that is, showed its strength. Putin's reaction is curious because he has been humiliated. Medvedev said revenge. Yes, Putin will hold a very long and comprehensive press conference tomorrow. There will be a year-end press conference with Putin, and maybe he can speak there. We are eagerly waiting to see what he will say, but Medvedev, the former Prime Minister of Russia, said that revenge will definitely be taken. Even if it is avenged, there is a risk that similar situations will be repeated before this goes down the path of war, that is, before it ends in peace. Isn't it mutual? Of course it is. Meanwhile, Trump's envoy to Ukraine is preparing to go on the ground. He will go to Kiev and other European capitals next month in early January to start gathering information for the negotiation process. Therefore, Trump's move and initiative to bring this to an end as soon as possible through negotiations. But Zelensky also reiterated his opposition to any concessions in his statement to the French press today. He said, "We will not give territory, we will not surrender to Russia, we will not freeze the conflict." Zelensky wants war until the end, but Trump doesn't want him. In a sense, the battle for influence here will be between Trump and Zelensky. Isn't it between Trump and Zelensky?
I mean, it's always like this, you know, with such a NATO membership. And maybe do a little something to give Zelensky some hope. again in exchange for land to be given to the West Germans?
Yes, this is what they call the West German model. Not the whole of Germany, but only the western part of Germany, and the unoccupied territories of Ukraine should be promised membership. But it is very risky. It could trigger a direct war between NATO and Russia. It would be a very dangerous thing in the third world. Exactly. So, in fact, this is not a realistic proposal, which can only be done with the approval of all NATO countries, 32 NATO countries. We know that many NATO countries are also against it, so Zelensky has to come closer to the line of realism. Maybe Trump will accelerate that.